the base case is, look, let's just not sell everything. And I believe that was the message that Trump kind of committed to at his Nashville talk. Like, that's the thing he was happy to say, that that could represent the reserve, just like we won't sell. But the actual strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation, I'm looking at it now, showing it on screen for the people who are watching in. Again, this is not the full bill because I'm just reading the summary at the top of it, but this is the official doc. It's actually to implement, or one of the headline points is actually to go off and implement a 1 million unit Bitcoin purchase program over a set period of time to acquire a total stake of approximately 5% of total Bitcoin supply, mirroring the size and scope of gold reserves held by the United States. So my understanding is US gold reserve, the US holds around 5% of the total gold reserve, and they think that holding that amount of Bitcoin would be an appropriate measure.
And I think, like, again, to me, I think you want to look at the difference between what Donald Trump says and what the single most Bitcoin bullish person in the entire U.S. government says. So and distinguish which one's which. And so if the single most person in Congress is putting together these bills, yes, that's bullish, but it's not necessarily at the place where I think you want to say, okay, this is something that will be accepted by the majority of Congress or whatever. Versus, or if Trump were saying he wanted to do that, I think that would get me a little bit more, because I think Congress will probably follow his lead. That would get me a little bit more positive on that.
Like it. Appreciate your thoughts, man. Very, very interesting stuff. Legendary, any reflections on this conversation we're having?
Yeah, couple of thoughts on that. So first of all, I think Stats is absolutely right. The base case is we are gonna maintain the status quo, but formalize it a bit more, call it a strategic Bitcoin reserve, move it from ledger to ledger. I don't think that Trump could go out there and say, we want to build a strategic reserve and buy $10 billion worth of Bitcoin, because then the market would actually front run the shit out of him. But I think it's yes, it's only a formal thing to like redesignate it and call it a strategic reserve, but I think it's like tremendously helpful for the institutional side of the market, because we had news on the show about Bernstein, about other asset managers saying, look, this is the time to buy Bitcoin. Then you have pension funds getting into BTC, and then when you have this like additional vote of confidence from the government telling you at a federal level, we are going to keep those that stash of Bitcoin that we already have because we think it's strategically valuable, that might sway even more funds, even more institutional participants to also buy BTC themselves, maybe buy that on a state level to the extent that this is possible. So even if there's like no actual buying by the US government on the federal level, I do think that it's more than just a formality. I think it could be read as a strong vote of confidence by the rest of the market and be helpful for the institutional side of the market.